Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have some very concerning news that really not a lot of people are talking about. We've got China and Russia getting closer and closer and closer and pledging a new era and also condemning the United States. And you've also got Russia coming out and declaring the United States an enemy for the first time. Now, a big reason this is happening, in my view, is because of the reckless Biden administration view on Russia, to where they're like a 13-year-old girl who just had their first period. You can't say anything positive about Russia. There can't be any compromise. There can't be any peace talks. It's Russia's the devil, Russia's the devil, Russia's the devil. This goes back to 2016 when they created the fake story about Trump and people around him being Russian agents and Russia trying to get Trump elected. Then Trump leaves office and then Russia invades Ukraine. It makes no sense. If they had Trump in their back pocket, why wouldn't they invade Ukraine while Trump was in office so they don't face sanctions from the US? It's ridiculous. It was always a farce. And now they just want us to forget about it. When Trump and his administration was mired for 2.5, 3 years into that hoax conspiracy, now you've got, I mean, liberals just hate Russia. Anytime you say anything that is remotely positive about Russia, it's a major problem. They freak out. There's just zero compromise. And obviously Russia invading Ukraine, it's not good. You can see the two sides to the argument. I think it's terrible. I think no country should be invading another country now with the amount of nuclear bombs we have. But at the end of the day, we can't sit here and act like third graders and just throw a hissy fit and say bad Russia, bad Russia, bad Russia. We have to be able to compromise and talk to these countries. Biden right now, there's just no sign of any peace agreement happening. If Trump gets in office, I do think he will push for peace between Russia and Ukraine by giving Russia the two Eastern-speaking regions of Ukraine. And the people say, well, you can't do that. It's just going to enable Putin to take more land in Europe. Putin's barely even able to invade Ukraine with his current army. They've lost so many men. How are they going to take over the rest of Europe? The NATO rhetoric is also ridiculous when you think about it. And this is like the comparison with China and Taiwan as opposed to Russia and Ukraine. All these European countries are bitching and they're angry and they're like, America, look at your GDP. You should be paying for most of this. When in reality, the United States has a much bigger concern in the Pacific with China and Taiwan, with China's military strength rapidly increasing. Well, actually, I'm not sure if it's rapidly increasing anymore. They got screwed with their zero COVID policy. And that's something that the Democrats would have done if they would have been in office. And remember, Trump was in office when COVID started. He shut the country down for a month, then he reopened everything. Democrats threw a hissy fit. Gavin Newsom, that entire little bubble in California, shut everything down, and the small businesses started revolting on Newsom. And they shut down for like 2 years. And that was when Newsom was facing off against DeSantis. And it got so bad, Newsom couldn't even admit he was wrong. Everything was shut down in like 2023. And we're sitting there saying, what are you doing? I think that the Democrats would have enacted some type of zero COVID policy where everyone just has to stay in their house, and it didn't work for China at all. And they're dealing with deflation right now, not inflation, which honestly I'm envious of based on how bad inflation is here in the United States. But their money is actually becoming worth more because of their current situation, and all of their housing prices are coming way down. It's like the exact opposite. But the United States has a bigger problem with China and how quickly they're growing. And when it comes to the idea of nuclear bombs, it's not that nuclear bombs don't matter. I know everyone says we have to worry about Russia. They're number one. They've got the most nukes. At a certain point, having the most nukes is useless. The reality is, as long as you have a significant arsenal of them, that's really all that matters. And when it comes to a World War III scenario, everyone thinks it's just going to be nuclear bombs dropping on each other and that's going to be it. I think it's going to be a lot of land war, and then at the end, there's going to be nukes. That's what I think with World War III, or maybe it'll just be a Cold War. Maybe the next big thing will be a Cold War II, where no one does anything because we're all concerned about the world potentially ending or us damaging the ozone with the amount of nukes we could drop, things like that. It could be a major issue, possible radiation. Although radiation actually from nukes is not horrible as opposed to something like Chernobyl or a nuclear disaster that's about 100 times worse. But either way, this rhetoric by the Biden administration, it's horrible. You have to be able to communicate with Russia. You're pushing Russia closer to China. And now You've got Russia, China, and imagine they get India somehow with the population that India has, and we get into a land war with India and China, and all we've got is Japan and South Korea, and North Korea joins China. This is a very dangerous situation, and you do have to wonder, when it comes to these diplomatic relationships between countries, we know the United States, the way our government is structured, the president doesn't have a ton of power, but when it comes to those relationships, that's when who's ever in office, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, they've got a lot of power when it comes to how we view countries and our relationships with countries. I think if Trump wins re-election in 2020, we're in a much better place in terms of our relationship with Russia. Now, of course, because they're 5-year-olds, they're going to say, well, that's because Trump's a Russian agent, even though it's already been disproven. Trump's just trying to be cordial and keep peace with these countries. So if this rhetoric continues and Biden somehow wins, I think Russia and China are just going to get closer and closer and closer. I don't know what's going to happen between Russia and Ukraine. I know Russia is probably very angry right now with how that war has gone. Remember when it started, everyone was saying Russia was going to take Kiev in like 4 days. It just hasn't happened. Yes, NATO has really supported Ukraine. And I do understand the interesting opportunity that we do have with this Ukraine-Russia war, where we don't have to lose any soldiers as long as we fund Ukraine. We can weaken Russia. That is a nice deal, but at a certain point, you don't want this to spill over into something bigger. You don't want to get reckless and make Russia even more angry, and then it gets escalated and it becomes a big problem. And Russia comes out and says the United States is an enemy. It's not surprising considering we've been footing a massive bill for Ukraine. So there is that, and the rhetoric right now with Biden and with the Democrats, it's not going to end. I mean, they hate Russia. You know, Republicans, it's not that they like Russia, but I think they respect them because Russia hasn't had their country overrun by immigrants. I think that's the main reason and the dynamic why that's happening there. And then you've got this is more fake stuff from the Biden administration. Wow, this is something. 272,000 jobs added in May. The estimate was 180K. And so they're trying to tout these record numbers in terms of job creation. Well, no, you actually have to look at the jobs. They're all part-time jobs. The full-time jobs are actually decreasing. And many people now, with the horrible inflation, are forced to work 2 or 3 part-time jobs, and it makes the numbers seem better. It's actually worse. Working 2 or 3 jobs and adding jobs to the market is not a good thing. You want people to just work one job, but now, with how bad inflation has gotten, the estimate was around 20% since Biden took office. I think it's worse than that now. I think Trump needs to bring that up during the debate. It's really about 22, 23% since Biden took over. That's why the stock market doesn't matter, because inflation is so bad. It's like a net negative even if you include how good the stock market has done based on the cost of living. So these jobs, yeah, people have to get more jobs because of how bad your economy is, and they try and gaslight and say, look at all the jobs that we're adding. Yeah, because nobody can afford anything, and we have to get more jobs. And take a look at this. My goodness. Americans' top priorities when it comes to 2024. What are the top 3 issues facing the country? And these are done by percentage. Economy at 37%. The latest numbers I saw on Biden, I think he was minus 25, minus 30 in terms of approval rating on the economy. Immigration, border security, what an absolute mess that was, where Biden and the Democrats denounced all the Trump policies that had strict immigration reform, and they say that's racist, it's disgusting, we're going to open the border. And fast forward 4 years, now they're forced to enact the same policies now that Biden's approval rating on immigration is minus 50, and they've got record numbers of illegals coming across the border, and even minority Democrats in New York City saying this is disgusting, we've got homeless people and you're doing this, and so they're forced to change policies. Biden's immigration was it's got to be one of the biggest disasters we've seen from a president in recent memory. They revert all the Trump policies, and now they're forced to go back to them right before Biden's potential reelection. National debt, that's both parties. You've got crime there. By the way, I love the narrative. They're saying, oh, crime is down. The Democrats are saying crime is down. This is the same party that doesn't want to prosecute minorities because they think it's racist, and they allow people to steal like $1,000 worth of stuff. California, it's a third world country. You've got all these people just filling carts up and walking out. This is how these people live, and they say, oh yeah, crime is down. Yeah, crime is down. They're underreporting it. Homelessness, a big problem. Gun violence, healthcare. Some of those are liberal topics. But you look at the three biggest or the two biggest topics: economy and immigration. And for the Republicans, immigration being at 34% versus abortion being at 13%. Immigration is almost 3 times of a bigger issue than abortion. That is a horrible sign for the Democrats if that holds. But we will just have to wait and see. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.